We have a great panel of our own, though. True?
True.
Correct. And so this panel is about women in technology, and I'm delighted to be here. My name is Andy Serwer. I'm the editor-in-chief of Yahoo Finance. I work for Yahoo, worked for Time Inc. for a while. And I'm delighted to introduce Jen Soule, who is the president of OWC. Big hand. To her right, Sue Fennessy, who is the founder and CEO of We Are 8, correct? There's some interesting names, right? Of the companies, I mean. And then to her right is Falon Fatemi, correct?
That's correct.
And you are, I don't have it in front of me, I'm sorry.
I'm founder and CEO of Node.
Node, okay, great.
Awesome.
Thank you. Very cool glasses. I mean,
Okay.
all of you, but Fallon might take the cake.
I think
right?
she does.
I don't just think I'm cool, I just got LASIK, so
Oh.
everything is very bright for me.
My bad, excuse me. Anyway, just a quick word about women in technology and working in Silicon Valley for a while and here in New York as well. Technology, the field of technology is not an easy place for women. I mean, to be perfectly honest. And so I think that's maybe axiomatic. But what goes on, and you've read all the stories, is a reality. And it has been a very male-based field. And so these women are super accomplished, and it's really, really interesting and very cool and inspiring to hear their stories. And I think you're going to find the conversation really interesting. So Jim, why don't we just start off a little bit by you guys talking about your companies, because people might not be so familiar with them. So Jen, why don't you start?
Oh, sure. OWC, otherwise also known as Other World Computing. So we're out of Illinois with global offices. Really, we focus a lot on zero waste, really, in a lot of different ways. Pillars of our company are our products that really extend the life of electronics, because the goal is for electronics to stay electronics and not become e-waste. So that's a really critical thing for us. And then another piece are really our storage solutions, fast SSDs, external storage, connectivity solutions. So really what we find our products do is really empower storytellers to tell their stories, musicians, filmmakers, and that's something that's really near and dear to our hearts, because I think, as we've all learned here today, having the ability to tell your story and have it shared is what really connects all of us.
Fallon, let me skip over to you. My understanding is you started at Google when you were a child.
12. 19.
19. I mean, that's really impressive. Anyone getting a job at Google is extremely impressive, and getting a job when you're 19, I don't even know how you did that. How did you did that?
I did a research project for Microsoft after taking an entrepreneurship course in school, where my entrepreneurship professor recruited me to do this research project, and through that got recommended to someone very senior at Google. This was in 2005. Where starting a company and joining a startup was not what you did. You went into investment banking and you came to places like New York, and that was the path that I was on. And then after I got that recommendation, I went to Google and they asked me what I wanted to do, and I said I wanted to learn everything. So I ended up being the youngest employee there, worked there for 6 years, and got to work with incredible female leaders like Sheryl Sandberg and Kim Jabal and Stacey Philpott Brown, who I know Leah worked with at TaskRabbit. And Megan Smith, who's the CTO of the United States.
Yeah, Megan's amazing. So, and what does Node.io do?
So at Node, we've invented technology called artificial intuition that predicts the future as it relates to people and organizations. So our customers will leverage our technology to understand which sales prospects will become customers, which customers are likely to leave before they leave, or which key talent is likely to leave before they leave. And then we also have a product line where our clients will actually take our technology and embed it into their applications so that they can build context-specific predictions that we can all leverage in our daily workflow tools without needing to, be a Salesforce or a Google and have lots of, AI resources, of which there's never enough of.
Great. Sue's kind of our firebrand up here. I think you're going to discover a little bit.
God, that's pressure.
No, you were volunteering yourself as that. And We Are 8. What does that mean?
So I've spent the last 30 years in tech, and the data company that I built before this tracked all of the ad dollars across the ecosystem. And we saw $550 billion in ad spend coming from the brands going to media companies like Facebook, $67 billion last year, Google, etc. And yet people, the ones that brands ultimately wanted to reach, weren't in the economic equation at all. And there was something inherently unjust about we the people, the 2 billion people that are on social media today, and that the 5 billion people that have phones, not part of that economic equation. So what we've built, and 8 is the infinite connection between brands and people and the infinite power of the human voice. What we've built is a framework, a technology infrastructure where brands can now sponsor hundreds of millions of people directly, and people get paid 60 cents in every dollar. So if you imagine, we've built a world where, and this is going to happen so fast, that everyone, every student, every mum, every person on the planet, every woman and man and person can get sponsored by the brands they love, get paid to either watch a piece of brand content, 25 cents. Instead of paying Google, 25 cents for a video view, or Facebook 10 cents for a video view, a brand can now sponsor you for 10 seconds of your time and pay you 25 cents. So this infrastructure is like a giant dating engine. We've got dating algorithms underneath and AI that means that brands can now target you but get money in your pocket. And every time they sponsor you, they also make a donation to a charity in your name.
I mean, it's potentially a revolutionary idea, and I want to get back to that. But first I want to ask Jen a little bit about your background, because you're from Illinois, like your company.
Yes.
And you told me you went to the University of Illinois, and I immediately assumed, oh, you studied computer science there because I got a great CS program, and Mark Andreessen went there, but you didn't.
I did not.
So tell the people about your background and how you got to work at a computing company.
Sure. When I started out, I wanted to be a teacher, right? Secondary English education. Love to read, not so much love about the grammar, but, they go hand in hand. So oddly enough, I actually tested into the business school, but I had my head so set on education that I ended up going into education. And lo and behold, I graduate, off year on hiring, and my boyfriend at the time, he became my husband, still had a year to go. So I went back home, which is really the same county as where OWC is. And so I'm substitute teaching and I'm temping, because that's what you do to start paying off those student loans that came due right away. And I ended up at OWC. So I walked in the door. Larry O'Connor, the CEO, greeted me in I think shorts. And he's like, hey, how's it going? Which was kind of, this is not what I expected of a CEO. Anyway, so I started there as a temp in sales. And pretty quickly, and I don't think Larry would mind me saying, I realized that they really need a lot of help. And so I just dove into all the different aspects of the company, because that's what you do in a small company. And if you've never worked for one, they're a ton of fun. You really get to touch everything. And so sort of as time went on, then I became the sales manager, and we were starting to really release more products, but really had at that startup point. And so it was, hey, we need to get marketing together and sales together, and we got to really start this product development thing, and we got to mature it and really talk to the engineers and get engineering involved. And so as I was sort of organizing all the groups within the company, then the founder and CEO decided that it was high time for OWC to have a president. So I'm lucky to be the first president of the company.
Amazing. Woo-hoo! That's great. Started as a temp. That's a cool story. I like that. Fallon, I want to ask you about Silicon Valley and tech and men and women in Silicon Valley, because it is such a huge issue, and I think that it actually speaks to the broader issues in Silicon Valley to a degree. So what's your take on that? Is that too broad for me to ask? It's sort of like...
What would you like to know?
The truth.
The whole thing.
Aren't we being live streamed? You mean like, so as a female entrepreneur, I mean, look, all the stories are true. It's far worse than that. I mean, I don't even know where to start with that question.
Yeah, it's kind of open-ended. I mean, so what has it been like being a woman working in Silicon Valley? Let's start with a very...
So I think when you're in a male-dominated industry, you end up dealing with a lot of things that are feel very unfair and are very challenging. And as a result, you can kind of take one of two approaches. One approach is you can be upset by it, frustrated by it, and basically be miserable, and then maybe leave that industry. Another path is to accept that reality and then basically figure out how to overcome it. And you have to work harder. You have to know your numbers. You have to understand you're going to get 10 times the no's, and you're going to have to pitch 10 times the investors, and you're going to, have to do a lot of things that, unfortunately, if I had the same exact credentials, but my name was Jack, I wouldn't have to deal with. But that is just reality. And the more women that believe in themselves and follow their passion and make those take those no's as a way to make them stronger and make their pitch better, the less and less we're going to deal with, frankly, a lot of bullshit, which is what we deal with now. And the 2% stat that Leo was talking about, where 2% of VC funding go to women, 98% go to men. Some people talk about that inequality as a result of, obviously there's a lot of male VCs, there's a lot of men that are making decisions at the table. I think it goes far beyond that. It's a training set issue. I come from AI, and it's about the pattern recognition that these investors see in terms of success as someone that looks like Mark Zuckerberg, not someone that looks like me. So what that results in is, frankly, an entire subconsciously or consciously biased sort of arena of capital that, frankly, is extremely challenging for women to have to raise from. And that's where, initiatives like Golden Seeds and Plum Alley and other, amazing high net worths like Mark Cuban, who's been an incredible backer and partner for my company, are frankly the type of capital that we need to go after in order to be able to make our moonshot visions a reality. And it's not easy. It's hard. Every damn day is hard, but it's worth it.
You are fantastic. You really are.
I love that.
Now, that was very well said. And there's, again, like you were saying, there's so many places to go with that. For instance, we were talking, Sue, about, for instance, are the algorithms themselves, which are primarily designed by men, both from the product side and the code side, people who have implicit bias, is that implicit bias reflected in the algorithms themselves? And the answer is probably yes.
100% yes.
Right, and look at Goldman Sachs this week, right? Did you know about this story? With Goldman Sachs with the Apple Card, and they put the card out, and they would give a card to a married couple who had a joint tax return, and the woman would get a lower credit score than the male.
Significantly lower.
Right, significantly lower.
Speechless.
Not surprised.
They said they took it back a few days later.
Well, that gets to, in terms of the people behind the technology, like especially at our company, we have 40% women. We're working to get to that 50-50, but it's extremely important. It's a big responsibility, especially when you're talking about artificial intelligence, to make sure that the people that are creating these algorithms are creating the training sets in such a way that they're as unbiased as possible. And this is actually something that is not talked about enough. But that's something that we at our company make sure that we are really focusing a lot of our hiring efforts on and making sure we're bringing the right mix to the table. And we see a huge difference culturally. There's no the ego goes away. It becomes less bullshit and more collaboration. And that's how you innovate.
Right.
Particularly if there's a higher purpose of the company. You rally around that higher purpose, whether it's, in our case, to economically empower 1 billion people on the planet, or in your case, to bring really human-based AI, or whatever that is. When that mission is higher than yourself, all the ego goes.
Sue, go ahead. Go ahead, Jen.
Well, I was just saying, we were talking earlier as well how important it is, there's amazing organizations there like Girls Who Code, but it's beyond making sure that there are women in coding and making sure there are women at the architecture level that are really building the systems, not simply making sure we have the equality on the coding side, because at that point it's a little bit too late.
Absolutely.
Sue, let me ask you about Facebook. I mean, isn't Facebook just the greatest thing that's ever happened to humanity?
Facebook scares the shit out of me.
I didn't
And we
ask
should
you.
all be afraid. I'm serious.
Kidding.
I mean, has anyone raise your hand if you saw the documentary on Netflix called The Hack?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that is emotional terrorism. I mean, that platform and the fact that Mark Zuckerberg, one human, controls the flow of information to 2 billion people on the planet.
What could possibly go wrong?
What could possibly go wrong? And his stance on content.
Right.
It's not about freedom of speech. They're a fucking publishing platform. You have to give a damn about the content that's on that platform. It's a responsibility.
Preach.
And the fact that they don't is because of their business model, which they make money if there's a lot of fake content on there that's swaying our minds or polluting. I mean, I am scared of
But
Facebook.
do you know what's good? You're not happy. Consumers aren't happy. People are not happy. Brands are not happy. Diminishing returns for every brand that is paying Facebook that $67 billion. Do you know what? They connected us with friends, early stage. That was a good technology. But the challenge is now the value equation is completely out of balance. There's no trust. They abused us, and they have not valued everything that we bring. And what you're talking about has been our obsession for the last, I feel like my entire life has been building to We Are 8, which is an entire platform built to give the people, we the people, back control. Completely outside the Facebook infrastructure. Because unless we do that, we will be reliant on an infrastructure that is using us. I mean, I found it really interesting when Facebook went to the Indian government and said, we want to fund technology infrastructure across the country to make telecommunications really easy. And the government, the Indian government, had enough foresight to say no. Because even though that would have been a free gift, it wouldn't have been free. Facebook's original line was, we're free and always will be. And then they took it away.
They
Because
just want to track what everyone's doing on the internet that they're funding. I mean, I think for ads, right, for money. I think the big lesson to society that we're learning is when a product is free, you are the product. And I think we're entering a world where, hopefully, this whole stance that Facebook is taking is going to be their demise. Because we're also entering into a world where there's a lot of, I don't know if you guys are familiar with deepfakes. It's basically using AI technology to create lots of fake content. The genie is out of the bottle on that one, so the internet very quickly is turning into basically a magazine stand. And the bigger issue is actually the lack of education on people realizing that a lot of what you see on Facebook and on the internet is fake, is likely fake, even though it looks real. And so my hope is that maybe this kind of brings us back to the days when things were unplugged. And we rely less on this technology like Facebook that has frankly taken us all hostage in a lot of ways, and we've let them. And we're able to be a lot more relational with one another and not in distrusting of these bigger companies.
Well, and I do think part of that, I mean, who would have thought that brands outside the big platforms would be the saviors? But we actually believe that when people are sponsored by Boom Chicka Pop and Pepsi and all these brands and getting paid directly into their PayPal accounts, and every student is having their mobile phone bill paid off directly just by watching 5 minutes of content a day, that's transformational, because that's rebuilding trust, and money speaks. That's getting money into my PayPal account, that's getting money into my data plan, and actually, the more I wake up as a human being, I'm realizing, Facebook, you've been really using me for a long, long time, and it is over. And so we are going to get there very quickly. 2 years. I give it 2 years.
All right. So, Jan, it sounds like a lot of crazy stuff out in California.
Stay over
I mean,
here.
my God, is it that bad
Glad
in
I'm
New
in
York?
Illinois.
In Illinois.
We have a lot of issues.
Pardon? Oh, Illinois. Yeah, we
Californians.
have plenty.
I can tell. I know. What about Illinois? I mean, it's interesting. You have a tech company. You think about Silicon Valley and Austin, some other places.
Actually, we have an office in Austin.
Okay.
So
is there a robust technology presence in Illinois?
Oh, in Illinois, there is definitely some technology. It is not California by any stretch.
I mean,
of
is
the
that a
imagination.
good thing that you're out of this crazy fray?
I think in some ways it was probably good for me, right? I had opportunities and I was able to take advantage of them that I may not have had. And I don't know if I faced everything that you faced all of the time, that I would maybe have come out as resilient. And I think being able to experience and to learn and to get a little bit under my feet before I actually ended up in California at different times and then did experience it, where, you know, there's the dismissal, polite or otherwise. There's the looking for the man in the room to answer the question, you know, and we do get that for, I mean, our customer service reps and our tech reps, a lot of them are women, and all of them had okay, no, I need a tech rep. Right, I am a tech rep. No, like the tech rep. Yeah, no, that's me. And so, I mean, it's not always as big as, oh, look, there is a clock. Wondering that earlier. It isn't always this big thing. Sometimes it's small, and those are the things that you have to continually fight against.
Okay. Just two quick last questions. First of all, Fallon, is Google just as bad as Facebook, YouTube?
No.
They're not.
But I'm also biased. I worked there for many years. Now, from my perspective, what's really amazing about Google is that they use their immense amount of cash and they purchase companies like DeepMind, which are research organizations, and then they put out the learnings from the research organizations to the rest of the community to then be able to leverage. And that they're actually doing good.
They bring us maps. They
Right.
bring us value.
Yeah.
They do invest in
Yeah.
stuff.
Okay. And then Sue, finally, last question. I mean, I heard consumers are starting to turn a little bit against Facebook, but really, would companies do the same? Because I hear that business is going just great, that part of their business.
Yeah, so Facebook have been really smart in getting small and middle tier companies as well. I think it's going to take the revolution and the rebellion is going to take a different form, where it's not going to be the new Facebook. It's actually going to be brands finding an alternative way to reach people directly and put money in their pockets, which that's why we built We Are 8. That is over the next couple of years going to grow until that's competitive to Facebook. And people wake up to really what's going on. And the attack on Facebook is going to take a different kind of form, and it's going to come from the people as they wake up. And by the way, brands are tired of it. Most brands are too scared to say anything because they still need Facebook at the moment because there haven't been any alternatives. And as soon as that alternative is for brands to stand alongside the people and say, sorry, no more Facebook, that's all they need. And then that is going to be a tidal wave of rebellion.
Okay, get ready for that revolution. We got to go. Jen, Sue, Fallon, tell them thanks. Thank you guys so much. It was awesome.